So this is the alternate drawing for perspective drawing number 2. It presupposes that you've already done this drawing. If you haven't already done this drawing, then you should do this one because it's a little bit simpler. It teaches all the same lessons, but just in a clearer way. So if you've done that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on this one here. As you can see, this is an interior scene. Before we truly begin, I want you to take notice that the paper format that I'm using is slightly different. So here is regular copy paper that is 8.5 by 11. This would be considered a legal size paper, and it is 8.5 by 14, so a little bit longer than the other format. It's better for the perspective drawings just because we can get more area in and looks a little bit, well, better, less fish-eyed. In any case, so if you don't have paper like that, that's okay. If you only have the regular copy paper, you can still do the work, but it just won't be as easy. So if you have access, like the kids in my school would have access to this, then go ahead and make sure you have this larger format paper. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First things first is that whenever I'm making a drawing, I don't usually start with a finished idea. I kind of make up the plan as I go along. And as I've said before, start with a drawing, then use the perspective to correct that drawing. See, here's the drawing that I was working with before. And, you know, lots of erasing. Actually, this might even be the second version of it to kind of work out my ideas. And then I put the ruler to it and make it, well, into a corrected finished drawing. So another thing that I'm going to do right here is I'm going to tape this down. I'm going to use this sort of as a cheat sheet because everything has been worked out. And you can do the same thing. Work out all your ideas first and then come back and make a finished drawing. So after I've worked out all my ideas, I can transfer the drawing. Here, you could do the same thing. I'm going to take a sheet of paper and put it over top of it. I'm even going to tape it down a little bit. That way I have it nice and stable. So if you were taking tape, one thing you might do is take your tape and put it on some cloth, either your sleeve or your jeans or something like that. And that will make that tape a little bit less sticky. So it will have less of a chance of sticking to your paper, but still have enough tack to it where it will hold the drawing down. One of the big things that I want to show you is about dividing space. So if I wanted to find this center of this paper, what I could do is I could draw an X through the paper, and that would give me the center. So if I haven't shown you this already, let me show this to you now. This is just the paper ruler. So it's just a piece of paper that I folded in half and half again. I find them to be very convenient because you can make them again and again and again. So you always have a fresh, nice, clean ruler to use, and you can mark on them, which is a very handy thing. So here's what I've done is I've taken one and put it into another, and that way it's long enough to go from one corner to another. So if I get them all straightened out, and I could draw from one end all the way down to another, but that would just give me more that I would have to erase. So instead, I know the center must be around here somewhere, so very lightly, I would go ahead and draw a little X there. And then here. So there you go. You can see my little X right in the center. And that gives me the central point. Now, on the other one, the main drawing, I put the vanishing point off to the side. This one, I'm just going to put it into the center. The other thing is that I'm going to go ahead and draw things very dark on this one. Well, relatively dark. A lot darker than I would if I was making a finished drawing on my own. But that's just so you can see things. Okay, so if I had my vanishing point here, the next thing I might think about as I'm drawing something out is how is the room itself going to be? Well, let's say I've made a back wall, and I'm just going to say like, okay, here would be a good place for a wall, maybe about to here. All right, something like that. And there were no exact dimensions. I just made it big enough so that it wasn't off into the distance, because that would be very unnatural. We're doing an interior after all, and just a simple thing like maybe like your living room is. Okay, so then once we got that, we could say like, okay, well, do we want to straighten it up a little bit? Yeah, and we're not dealing with exact measurements, but how easy is this? If I've got my paper ruler here, using this corner, I could just make a mark over here to the edge of my paper, because the paper is always perfectly square. I could just make another mark right there. And I could see like, oh, well, I was close to being straight, but I could get a little bit better than that. So maybe I'll go ahead and erase this one and straighten it out a little bit. Once again, I'm drawing really dark. Maybe you draw dark on your first one and then copy over it. That's fine. But in any case, on your finished drawing, you should be drawing very light. Okay, good enough. So what about this end right here? From the bottom to the bottom here, the bottom of the wall to the bottom of the paper, that's about how big it is. So if I was to bring that over, I'd see, oh, okay, here's the bottom of my paper. Here's the bottom here. It's off just a little bit. I can correct that. But the important thing was that I had the size. I knew about how big I wanted to make that wall in the first place. All right, that's a little bit better. And how about up here? Well, let me see. From the top here to the top of the wall, top of the paper to the top of the wall, we've got it right there. And we've got it right here. Okay, good. Oh, that one was actually pretty good. But remember, I do have my cheat underneath, and that's really helping. I worked out all the messy ideas on that first piece of paper, and now I'm just copying it. Obviously, with this is copy paper, so you can just see right through it. But if you had something else, you might use a light table or a projector. If you had heavier paper that you couldn't see through. And as far as light tables and projectors, well, I guess that's a lesson for another video. But in any case, I've done the same thing, and here's the side of the wall, here's the side of the paper, and so that's got me nice and straight. Okay, good craftsmanship. Remember, always practice good craftsmanship, because then you have it. Good craftsmanship just doesn't appear out of thin air. It's something you have to constantly practice. Okay, so now if this was the back wall, then, and I'm looking towards this vanishing point right here, then to make the side walls, all I'd have to do is run down from the vanishing point from here to here. And you can see that's where that wall would be. I'll just go ahead and do it for the rest of them. Just from the vanishing point to the corner and off the paper. And notice once again, I don't have to draw a line all the way through from my vanishing point to my corner and out. That's just one more line to erase. But I know here, follow it along the ruler. Here's the corner. And I can just go from there. Okay, so once again, not exact measurements, but just thinking, well, if this was a standard size wall, maybe an 8-foot ceiling, something like that. It's an 8-foot wall. And in newer houses, maybe some of those are a little bit taller than that. That's all right. But if you just have an 8-foot wall, that's kind of easy to deal with as far as, you know, getting things about right. And so I think like, well, I'll put a door over here on this side. So about how big would a door be? Well, door would go, you know, and look around you, maybe almost to the ceiling, but not quite. There'd still be some room above there. It'd be about 6.5, well, a little bit more than that, maybe closer to 7 feet, somewhere around there. Be a door, right? And then you'd have to have enough room for somebody to walk through. So that seems about right for a door. Okay, cool. And here, every door has to have a doorknob. And just look at yours. You know, the observational drawing helps with so much. If you just look around, you see, well, how big is a door relative to the walls? Okay. Well, then how about a window? Okay. We'll put a nice window over here. And oftentimes I see that the windows go up higher than the doors do. Look around you. See if that's true for you. And if I want to check to see if I've got things straight, remember I had this wall nice and straight, so I could check here. Okay, here's the edge of the door to the edge of the wall. Right there. So if I came down, be like, oh, okay, it was close. It could be a little bit better than that. Here, we'll get a little bit better. And now how about this one here? Okay, once again, we'll go from the wall. And this was how wide the door was. All right. Right there. Oh, that one was pretty good. Okay, good enough. And I think as far as the top goes, I'm just going to eyeball that one. Seems about right. And as far as the window goes, well, here we can do the same thing this way. There's a mark, and I can see that my window, I went in a little bit. It was pretty close though. Pretty close. And if I was to go down from the roof, it'd be right about there. So right about here. And once again, I'm looking pretty good there, but just in case, getting everything nice and correct. Now, some people, just a note on lines. Me, I don't know, I go back and forth. I like a hand-drawn line, generally speaking, more than I like a line done by a ruler. But sometimes I prefer the ruler line. You know, that's sort of a personal taste as far as that goes. But the ruler line seems very mechanical to me, and that's why sometimes I would prefer just a hand-drawn line. Okay, so here's the mark for this one. We can see that comes down a little bit. Now, here's another thing to note, is that, you know, I'm getting all these marks, and maybe there's sometimes kind of hard to figure out, well, which mark was it? By making your marks a little different, like here we go, see that's a very unique mark, then it stands out from the other ones and helps me to keep track. It wasn't really a problem so far, but just another tip and trick to point out to you guys. All right, so now we've got our nice little window there, and it should be pretty straight, you know, pretty good. Okay, cool. Now, the next thing that I might want to do is think about, well, what's in this room exactly? And, well, I think I wanted to have a window here on this other side. So this is one of the things that I showed you from this drawing, is that you can move things from one side to another and keep them even. Also, the fact that everything is going to that vanishing point, all the windows, all the everything else is going to that vanishing point. Well, same thing in this drawing here. So if I wanted to put a window over here and I wanted it to be the same height as this window, which would make sense, all I would have to do is go from here, straight line, I don't have to actually draw it, put a little mark over there. Maybe if it's exactly the same as this window, here we got a straight line over to here. I don't have to actually draw the line once again. And then I could go from here, from our vanishing point, to here, and I'll just draw a little guideline. This one I've drawn pretty light. I'll darken that in a little bit later. And here, same thing. And that's going to give me the height of the window, both the top and the bottom. Now, how far out the window is, you know, you could actually calculate, if you wanted it to be the same distance as this one, you could calculate that there, but that's a lesson for another time. We'll just kind of put the window wherever the heck we want it. So I'll just put it right here. So if I just draw straight down, Here we go. And so this is something that I could measure, but I'm just going to eyeball that. And I'm going to darken in these ones right here. Erasing these, because, I want to get rid of guidelines that I don't need. Otherwise, boy, things can get really messy really fast. Okay, so here I've got my window, and it's about the same as this one over here, just in perspective. So that's our little room, and in the next lesson we'll put some furniture in it.